Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Friends and Authors Live. I'm Rosalinda Roman, here with my good friend, A.K. Vias, also known as Ash, and it's a new time for our show, a new day, and a new location for Ash. Hi, Ash, how are you?
Great, Rosalinda. How are you?
I'm really doing really well. It's the middle of summer, and so the kids are out of school, which of course I just want to hang out with my kids and enjoy that time. But I also want to make sure not to, let my books and my writing and all of my author stuff fall, off the wagon or whatever, fall by the wayside. So yeah, just staying the course. It's been kind of a slow and steady, not as productive as the school year time for me as a mom, but definitely keep writing. So how about you? How's the, because you guys start over in Germany, they start summer like break way later than we do here in the States.
Yeah, it was last week that it started. So my
Oh
little
my God.
guy is off with his cousins playing
Mm.
in part of
Oh,
Germany.
that's amazing. There's nothing like cousin time when,
Yeah,
especially in the summer, when you can just be free and play. That's awesome. That's so good.
yeah, and it's
Yeah. So where are you? In you're not at home.
no, I'm not at home. I'm at the local coffee shop on my block, which has
Okay.
better Wi-Fi because my Wi-Fi's been kind of spotty lately. So I'm actually on my phone at the cafe. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll get somebody here live who can tell us how it looks. And it's part of this process, and I really appreciate that you were willing to move locations. Is we make it work, we shift, we pivot, we figure out what works best, and I think that's perfect. Like it's a perfect metaphor for being an indie author because we learn to pivot. Things are going to go wrong, things that you didn't anticipate, and you just keep going. So it's really good advice for anyone that's watching. And if anyone is here live, if you're new here, the way that these live streams work, if you have a question or a comment, if you've always wanted to ask something about indie author, self-publishing or anything, you can put those comments and questions in the comment section. We'll see them live in the studio, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or even on Substack, and then we can answer them live. If you're watching this in the replay, put the comments in anyway, and we'll get to them in next week's show because we show up here every week, Thursday. Now it's Thursdays at 9 a.m. my time and 5 p.m. in Europe. So I'm on Mountain Time. So how about now that your son is out for the summer, how's the writing? Like, are you able to actually get any writing done? Because you have a
Yeah,
big project underway right now.
yeah, I have, it's kind of funny. I kind of feel like a pack rat in that my books are generally about 60,000 words long, and I have three books over 60,000 words that are pretty much ready to publish. I'm just going over the final edits. Uh, and one will be the start of a new series, so that'll be published a little later, which, for marketing reasons. It's hard to run Facebook ads unless you have, I think, at least three books in a series. That's the way I do it. But the other two should be published next month. So yeah, getting a lot of writing done.
That's amazing. That's really, really good. And I'm excited because so Ash writes in different genres, but I find them to be very much in alignment and adjacent. Like I think that your readers, because you write historical fiction, right? Or prehistoric really. Um, and you also have kind of a Western series. And now you're getting into the greatest generation, which I think, that is going to be, I'm excited about reading that series. So can you talk maybe about that? Just how, yeah, you've got a lot of different things going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a way, I guess you could say it's all historical fiction because uh, whether it's prehistoric or Western or World War II, but for me, World War II has been something that I've been passionate about since I was, a little guy growing up. I grew up on army bases in Texas. Listened to stories from veterans who, and pretty much read just about everything. I come from a military family, just about everything I could on World War II, which to me is almost like mythology in terms of like, it's such a huge, perhaps the most significant event the world has had. And it's pretty much, very few things in life are completely black and white. It's pretty much black and white. Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan were evil, not the people, but the regimes, right? And it's kind of the forces of democracy. I mean, it's almost like Lord of the Rings or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, except it's real. It really happened. And there's so many stories. And so Tom Brokaw wrote a book titled, a nonfiction book titled The Greatest Generation back in like the 90s, I think. And, and I agree with it that, I guess it would be our grandparents was one of the generation of Americans who grew up in the Great Depression, survived that, and then went off and beat the Nazis to save the world. And then came back, and those who survived were just energized. They wanted to get married, have babies, get degrees, build highways, and they built America into the superpower that it was today. But when you go back and read the history, especially in the beginning, like right after Pearl Harbor in early 1942, it was probably America's darkest hour. The bad guys were winning, like winning big, right? And so America had to pull itself out of it, and she did. And there are so many fascinating stories. So what I've done, for now, it could change, but out of 50 plus years of reading, I've picked the 12 best stories, my opinion, of course, and written a standalone novel about each one.
It's such an exciting thing. Yeah, because you think about, I often think of what would have happened if it had gone in a different direction. If that greatest generation had been, we're not really going to fight, we're not going to really do anything, the world would be different right now. America certainly would be different, but the world would be different.
And the thing about history is history gets a really bad rap because if you talk about facts and figures and numbers, it's interesting, but it's not that interesting, right? But what you got to remember is that human nature is perpetual. Like, people have, whether it's 10,000 years ago or 1,000 years from now, people still have the same basic emotions: love, happiness, fear, greed, that sort of thing. And I was blessed that I had a wonderful history teacher in high school, Mr. Lovell Smith, and he wouldn't teach us so much about the facts and figures. He would teach us, about stories of real human beings and what they went through, right? And, for just a quick example, so, if you ask people what was one of those pivotal battles of the Second World War, you'd say, okay, well, it's the Battle of Britain, where the Germans had taken over the continent. The English were the only people, because they were an island, who hadn't been taken over, and the German Air Force was trying to destroy the British Air Force, and if they could do that, they could invade England and effectively end the war. Now, some people will find that interesting. Some people won't. But if I tell you, okay, imagine you're, a married family, husband, wife, and a kid. And every morning at breakfast, you kiss your wife goodbye and your kid goodbye, and you're going to get in your plane and shoot down German planes who, if they get through, could bomb your wife and your kid. And if you're the wife, every morning you kiss your husband goodbye, you don't know if he's coming back. And if you're the kid, you don't know if your dad's coming back, right? And if you had to live that every day for a year, right? Like
it changes you.
But even if you tell the story of that family, people, they want to know what happened, right?
Right.
So
because we are storytellers at our core. I think human connection is about shared stories, sharing stories, and there are just so many fascinating stories. It never ending.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the idea, that I'm trying to tell very personal stories of kind of ordinary people in very extraordinary times. That's the new series.
Amazing. Yay, I'm excited. Well, that is, and that's going along smoothly. That's coming out later this year.
In the fall, yeah.
in the fall. And you've also got a book coming out in your other series, right?
Yeah, so you have to keep your readers happy. So the Westerns and the Eagle Feather Saga, I'm tardy. I'm behind. I owe the readers books in each one.
I
They're
did
letting me
notice
know.
some of your reviews. He has, by the way. If you go check out AKVS on Amazon, or you can go to akvs.com. And if you look at the reviews, they're just the most touching review. Like, people love your books. And every now and then someone will be like, and when are you going to give me another one? Which I think is so fun. That's what you want as an author. You want them to tell you, like, come on already.
You definitely do. And I mean, you get tough reviews sometimes too, but the good ones where you touch someone or someone, truly appreciates what you've done, like it keeps you going. It really does. We're supposed to be like, thick-skinned and ignore that kind of stuff. But when you write a book, especially if it's fiction, you're putting your heart and soul in every book. It's hard.
Yeah.
You have to stay objective and keep going, but it's personal. It's always personal.
Yeah, of course. It is personal for sure. That's good. Okay, so that's exciting. So that's coming out in the Western series. And you said there's 3 books coming out. What's the third one?
There's an Eagle Feather book coming, a Western book coming, and then the first book of The Greatest Generation will be the 3 that effectively I've got done. I just need to edit them and put them out. So
that's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
What an exciting time. Well, and for me, like, I don't have a set date for what's coming out next, but I do have I've all but finished this bonus story. So I kept saying mystery thrillers, and then I did kind of a genre analysis. I really write conspiracy thrillers. That's really what they are. And they're based on my years as a reporter, a TV news reporter working in the South Georgia and North Florida. And I wrapped up that series in April, the Catalina's Chronicles. It's a 5-book series. But I have another series that I'm moving into that's more international. And I needed to figure out how to bring people from one series to the other. So I wrote, essentially it's a bridge. It's like a novella that is going to be, it takes you from the one series to the other series and keeps people on my email list, essentially. And that's been fun. It's been slower than, like, it's so funny how when you have a deadline, for me, I come from TV news. So, like, deadline, I'm good. In fact, right before this show, he's like, aren't we going on in 5 minutes? And I'm like, well, I'm used to, like, everything, I'm used to when I know what time I need to be there, I'll be there. And when I know when I need to get something done, I'll get it done. Well, I didn't set a date. Like, I didn't have a pre-order date up or anything like that, like I did with the books. And because of that, it's taken a little longer to write this bonus story than I expected. So yeah, I've learned a lot about myself and my writing style, and I definitely am still better with a deadline.
Yeah, I think all of us need that pressure. Although I'll say that the catalyst for this is actually not so much your writing. I mean, sorry, your professional journalism career, as your Disney roots, right? Because what you're doing is what people call the theme park, and what that is, and you'll know, like, it's the most successful authors that I've seen write series, but they create a world where their series are interconnected. It's kind of like, okay, if you go to Florida, you can go to Disney World, or you can go to Epcot, or whatever else they have there, but it's all kind of the same, world, right?
Yeah,
and so that's really smart, because your readers, you give them that path, and maybe they go from theme park to theme park within that world. And that's how you truly build something. That's how you build a business, right?
I love that idea. That makes a lot of sense, because, and full disclosure. So I started my Disney experience. I worked at Walt Disney World in Epcot Center, as a matter of fact, at the Land Pavilion, where the attraction doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Kitchen Cabaret with veggie fruit. I don't know if you remember that. And then in between broadcasting jobs, because I had met my husband and I basically turned my life upside down and left my reporting job in El Paso, Texas, I got another job. I went back to Disney as kind of an in-between job before I got my next TV job in Tampa. And I was a Jungle Cruise skipper. And that was a whole different experience. But you're right. There's this there's this culture, if you will, within the Disney company. So I was working at Disney at Magic Kingdom in that case. So they're different parks, but it's got the same ecosystem. It's got this, it's all part of kind of, I think of like, what is it? The mycelial network of trees, right? Like there's some connection. So yeah, that is actually, and I kind of feel like that with yours, even though they're such different series, your characters all have, for me, some of the characters we fall in love with in your books have similar heart, and they you are rooting for them because they have that certain something that really. So I think people that read your Westerns also would enjoy your prehistoric fiction, or will, I bet, enjoy your next Greatest Generation series.
I hope so. I mean, it's really kind of an evolution. I mean, there's an art aspect to it, and then as you get to the point where you can do it full time, there's kind of like a more sophisticated, kind of planned out way. Like, for example, and you know this, I wrote The Eagle Feather for my kid. I wrote it as a bucket list thing during the pandemic, hoping he'd read it someday, and then I could say, okay, check that off the list. I wrote a book, and hopefully my son will enjoy it someday. And so, but now, it's had some success and it's a series, and I have other series. Now, like talking to successful authors, and this is really exciting, you're actually in the world building business. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the books have to be good. Like you can plan all you want, but if you don't write a good book, you're not going to get there. But like, for example, for this series, if it takes, and, knock on wood that it does, well, this is World War II USA. If it takes, then there might be a World War I USA series. Or let's not ignore our European friends, right? The British and the Russians who helped us defeat Nazi Germany, right? So it can go in any direction as long as it's good, right? Yeah. But the notion of thinking like that, back in 2020 when I first wrote my first book,
no,
I might as well have been on Mars, right? Because I was just right to one story. Right, just finish a book.
Same for me. Death Wounds, the first book in the series, started as a screenplay, and I wrote it because I had kind of PTSD, if you will, from covering some really heinous stories, and I needed somewhere to put them. I needed something to do with that instead of taking it home and never sleeping at night. By the way, I have always processed things. Before I started writing, I would have the most horrible nightmares because I covered, people murdering people and just human trauma. And then once I started writing, I sleep peacefully at night now because I'm able to, it's like therapy. I'm able to process because I basically take things that I've experienced in the real world and I put that into my fiction. And then I run with it. It's not like, some of the things actually happened and I put those in the book just because they're like, really? That actually happened? But mostly it's because it gives me a chance to kind of process whatever it is that is on my mind. And so I just sleep peacefully at night now, most of the time.
And that's such a recurring theme I've heard, that adversity stirs art. Right, it really, really does. Maybe in some genres more than others, right? Yeah. But no, I think that's definitely true. I remember, reading. Remember, like, Interview with a Vampire series, Anne Rice back in the days.
Yeah, I read the whole series. Yeah, which is unusual for me.
And I learned later that there's a female vampire who's in the body of a child, a 6-year-old child, in one of the books. And I learned later that Anne Rice's 6-year-old daughter passed away from leukemia.
Oh, wow.
And so I think she kind of immortalized her in,
Oh, you
in
just
her
gave me
fiction,
goosebumps. Yeah, I mean,
right?
and that's
And,
art imitating fiction. I mean, yeah, art imitating life.
yeah, and it just kind of shows that, yeah, like this, people go through adversity, go through rough stuff. Like some of the stories you told me about your television news career, just like,
Yeah.
wow. Right? Uh, but, but yeah, I'd like to think this is a reasonable outlet to get that stuff out and
Yeah.
create something, artistic out of it. Right.
It's really, really good because, and I write nonfiction too. I actually am now working on, I don't know if it's going to be a prequel or a sequel to my sailing memoir. That's a very different kind of writing. That's more of like, yeah, I don't know. That's more like my reporting, where I'm telling a story that actually happened, and I'm just trying to stick to the facts and things like that. With the creative process, it's almost like you get to recast some of the things you went through. Perfect example. There's a scene in I don't know if I should give it away. There's the scene in one of my books that the boyfriend does something really, really kind of creepy. That actually happened to me. I had a boyfriend that did this thing, but I recast it in this book. That was like, oh, like the outcome was different than what happened in my life. So yeah, it's an interesting thing because in my nonfiction, it's just stories of what happened. My family, splits our time between living in New Mexico and living on a catamaran, which is by the way, we moved the catamaran from Greece to Spain. Now it's in Cartagena. But those stories, that nonfiction, it's just, what did we do? What did we see? What was, it's like reporting. I'm reporting on my own experience. Whereas the fiction, it's a whole different thing. And I think maybe that's why readers really resonate with a good story when they find a character that they really love and they follow that character through the series, which is why the Eagle Feather fans are like, when are we going to get to know what happens next with your character? Or Shannon Dumas, right? Is that how you pronounce it? Dumas.
Yeah.
In either one of those cases, they've become invested in the character because I think they see something of themselves in those characters. Our favorite characters, we see ourselves in them. So like for me, my very first book series that I ever remember reading that really changed me, I feel like it changed me, was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and the Chronicles of Narnia. And I remember I identified like Lucy, that little character at the time. I was probably 12 when I read it. I could see myself in her, and I could also see like different parts of myself in some of the other characters, the valiant Reepicheep, the mouse who, might be small but is mighty, and things like that. Those are the things that we see in fiction, and we identify they really are a reflection of a part of ourselves, and hopefully the best parts of ourselves that we really appreciate.
No, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. I watched, there's a movie came out in 2005, and I watched it with my son for the first time before he went off with his cousins, and it was so great to, watch something and watch your kid, love something that you loved when you were a kid, right?
Oh, you're talking about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How did he like it?
He thought it was great. He loves, he cried when Aslan died, and he's a tough kid. He does jujitsu. He's 10,
he's
right?
A really
but
kid.
but he's still a little boy.
He's tough exterior, and if you're put in a situation where boys are doing bad things, you will be, very tough. But you're also soft in the middle. That's why you write great stories.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, but it was great. And the interesting thing he told me, Linda, was he's like, I like this better because I'm only 10. And that was telling because sometimes I forget he's only 10, right? So maybe Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is easier for a 10-year-old to digest than Lord of the Rings, right? Because there's some rough stuff in Lord of the Rings too.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's interesting. how you read and how you introduce your children to reading is so different for me. I'm probably because of some of the things, the traumas that I've seen, and secondhand, from being a reporter. I think my kids, especially my daughters, would be like, you are very, like, I wouldn't let them read certain things until they were much older, even though they were like college level reading when they were in middle school. And they're like, we can read this. And I'm like, no, you cannot. Because for me, there is a certain, like stories get much more complicated as we get older. And in the end, it's nice to have fantasy and fiction that takes you away, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. For me, when I was 12, it was kind of a tumultuous time in my life. And I am glad that we have the stories that evolve over time. Because really, I go back now, and if I read the same stories that I read, because like C.S. Lewis, there's all kinds of political commentary throughout that entire series. It represents something different now that I'm an adult. But to be able to have a story that suits the person while they're a certain age, when you're a kid, it's kind of like Shrek. You think about some of our favorite movies, like it's a children's cartoon, but really there's also this whole other under story for the adults, which I think is I love stories like that.
Yeah, well, those are classics, right? And we had a show earlier about C.S. Lewis's methodology for identifying kind of universal core traits to stories, and I've definitely been applying that with the new series. It's really powerful stuff. His Four Loves.
Yeah, so Ash is referring to so C.S. Lewis had he basically broke down the types of love that we humans experience and that we would want to write into our stories. And you can speak to that. I don't remember the exact, but I know there's Eros, and there's what's the friendship one? Philia. And so and you can go back and look through some of the past episodes, and there's one titled, I think, C.S. Lewis on writing. And it really makes you slow down and think about, okay, what is the relationship that my reader most values in my characters here? Because if you're writing a romance, it's a very different relationship than if you're writing, like in your case, you're writing, and you even discovered I thought I was writing more of the Philia, right? Or you figured out something different.
Absolutely. Like the reader, the demographics of the majority of readers for the Needlefeather Saga are college-educated American women between 40 and 60, or in their 60s. And there were aspects of the familial type of love, storge, that sort of thing, relationships between family, that were more important to them than philia, which is kind of like, the guys, men in battle, that kind of bond.
Yeah.
And so, it was useful. But I do have a couple of things that I've noticed over the past couple of weeks, more on the pragmatic side, which might be helpful to listeners. The first is, we may have discussed this briefly, but Amazon changed its royalty limits upward.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to touch on that.
So this is useful for in a lot of ways. So it used to be that if your books were in Amazon, on KDP and Amazon, they motivated you to fix the pricing, in that if the book was priced between $2.99 and $9.99, the author got to keep 70% of the profit of the sale.
Right.
But if it was outside of those ranges, then you only got to keep 35%. And that's
crazy, by the way.
Well, Amazon's an 800-pound gorilla. That's the way it works.
I know.
But so now that was fine for ebooks, but the issue we're talking ebooks, by the way, just ebooks.
Right.
The issue was, well, if you had a box set or something, right?
Mhm.
You know, if you had, for example, like your box set, your 5-book box set for Catalina's Chronicles, that's 5 books. If you're giving that away for $9.99 and your books are $6 each, well, I mean, it's a deal. It might not be the deal that you want, but
Right.
now that's changed. That upward threshold has been moved up to $12.99. So a bit of improvement, but it definitely
Yeah.
helps. And it definitely helps. It really helps with box sets. Right? I changed all the pricing on my box sets, which is also when you put out box sets. That's a lot of people we know have said that's when Facebook ads really start to work.
Oh, interesting.
But the other application is for BookBub, right? And this is one of those counterintuitive things that, once again, one of our author friends who's more of a businessman than an author, even though he's an incredibly successful author, said, look, if you have, a 5-book box set at $12.99, and you put it on BookBub for 99 cents, you might sell 15,000 of those in a day. And if you hook that up with the Amazon Kindle Countdown, where you get to keep 7% of that royalty, you could have a pretty spectacular day, right? Even though you're selling the thing at over a 90% discount, but if you could make $7,000 or $8,000 in a day, do you care?
Right.
So, that's something to consider. Is that Amazon has, after authors asking for a long time, increased the ebook threshold for the 70% royalty from $9.99 up to $12.99.
Well, and I know it just happened, but have you noticed a drop off, or like by putting it to $12.99? Do you see any noticeable change yet in your sales?
That's another episode. I definitely want to talk about like pricing your art, because I think that's something that authors struggle with. I mean, I think it has to be kind of in the range for your genre. But at the end of the day, I really want to caution against, limiting yourself too much or restricting yourself too much. I mean, at the end of the day, like, is $9 versus $12 the end of the world? I mean, it's not even the price of a coffee at Starbucks. And if you write a good enough book, if I have a 3-book box set at $10 versus $13, I don't think people really care. If you don't write a good book, you can give it away for free and no one's going to read it. Right. But at least that's my 2 cents on it.
Interesting.
The other thing that I have is a very generous lesson that an author friend and mentor of mine shared. Now, to set the stage here, this is a very successful 6-figure author with multiple series. So, some series do better than others. He writes military sci-fi primarily, and he's spectacularly successful. But he shared, very generous. He shared some details of a series of his. Just this kind of a lesson to folks, reminding them that there's the art hat and then there's the business hat. And if you want to make a career of this or quit your day job, once you have a certain number of books, you're actually wearing the business hat 70% of the time, more than the art hat. But long story short, so you tell me, as a investigative reporter, is this a success or not? I think it's a success, but there are details here. So he wrote a 9-book series, a thriller series, and he made $100,000 in sales. Okay. And he, like I said, he's a spectacular author. So he's got great reviews. He's got multiple series. That in a way that's to be expected for one of his series.
Okay.
But he's also someone who's more of a traditionalist when it comes to AI and that sort of thing. Yeah. And also, he made the choice to go high end. I think he paid $1,000 for a book cover. Her book cover translations were, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Then putting them into audiobooks after you get them translated in different languages. that adds up. So the net cost of his books, I don't know the exact figure, but what he told everybody was like, okay, guys, so I made $100,000 on this series, but it cost me $88,000 in expenses, including marketing, to put all this out there. So he net made 12 grand.
Wow. Wow.
So that's eye opening, right? Because first of all, selling $100,000 worth of a book is not easy.
No.
But
we dream of that. Many of us dream of that.
But I mean, there's ways to obviously have the cost be significantly less. But his lesson to everybody was, you know, guys, this was one of my failures, not the right word, because he still didn't made money on it. But he said the lesson learned was I need to go back to my knitting, go back to my series that are successful. I'll keep marketing this thing, but you know, I'm not going to add any more books to the series until it starts making more money. And this was a lesson learned that I kind of went, you know, high end on everything, and this was the net result. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That's surprising, and in so many ways. And I know there are tools now that change that. Like even as you know, I'm a traditionalist myself. I pay for a human to make the cover. I pay for a human to do the audiobook. I pay for human editing, you know, and I've looked at like, do I want it to be translated by a human? I haven't gone there yet, but yeah, I lean more toward the way he does things. And I also recognize, like, at some point, the tools allow indie authors to finally keep more of the money that they're actually making from the book sales, and make it a career so that they're actually able to make that their job, instead of this is a side hustle and I'm always having to, you know, find a way to supplement it. So, you know, it's tricky. That's interesting, because I know this is what a lot of authors struggle with. Like, how do you make a living? I mean, if you're doing it just because you love to write and it's your passion project and you don't care and you have, you know, some other way to make a living, I guess that's different. But when you're looking at it as a business and this is how I want to, you know, pay the rent, then it is a different dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good way to put it. You know, it just depends what you want from it. But if you want, you know, this to be your profession, you have to consider such things.
Yeah. I'm always wrestling with that. You know, I think I told you last week when I was working on editing a project in video, and, you know, I'm a professional video editor. I really wrestled. I've wrestled a lot with, do I let AI do it? And, you know, in theory, make it so it's really, you know, because basically I can take a video, put it into one of these AI editors, and it's done very quickly. But it's not done. It's not done to the standard that I'm accustomed to, coming from a broadcasting background. But also, I'm always struggling because I don't like that. I don't like to hand things off. I don't want a machine handling what I know I'm capable of doing, you know. So, but then I see the other side, like in this scenario, if he had instead not paid a human to make the covers and, you know, saved that, I think you said $1,000 a cover, that's $9,000 right there. Or, you know, maybe you pay however much you pay for the AI generative app to make it. That's a fraction of what he's paying. So yeah, that's really tricky. And I know we'll have many conversations about that moving forward.
Where I fall, I don't think, you know, AI can write books. I think it writes drivel. I don't think it can capture like the human spirit or the human skill or any of that. Maybe someday it will, but what it can do is it's really good for research. It's really good for analysis. Like, you know, if you're trying to figure out, like, was December 13th, 1941, what day of the week was that? And like, what would people have eaten in South Carolina back then? And you know, things like, it helps with research.
So it's good for some reason. So yes, with the caveat that it's frequently wrong. So it's good for the initial research,
you have to check
and for starting, but you also still have to use your own brain too.
There's no substitute for that. But no, I mean, it's also good, like, for example, like you can teach it, like, go to our tech wizard, Mr. Danny, and say, okay, write me a program that looks at a manuscript and gives me instances of the four loves where they're achieved and where they're not achieved, where they can be better. And I have that for book one of the new series. So I'm like, oh, I got to work on my Storge there. Oh, there's a little more Philia there. Oh, but there's an interesting anti-Eros option here, right? So it is useful right now.
It's a cool tool. I know. I can see the value, and I still am going to be that old school lady holdout until I'll be the last one. I'll be like, fine, I have no choice. But right now,
you don't have to be. I'll never use it to write a story. I don't need to do that.
Well, and gratefully, we hopefully are good storytellers in our own right. So let's keep up what we can do. And I thought about that. I'm like, what is it? What is my part? Like, even if it's not AI and just hiring an assistant to do some of the tasks that I am currently doing, I'm like, what are the things that I'm good at? I'm a great writer and I'm a great broadcaster. I know that. Those are the things that I'm bringing to the table. The rest of it, do I really need to spend my time on? I'm good at those too. I'm a really good editor. And should I be spending my time doing that? That's, I think, as a business owner, entrepreneur, that's a question we all ask ourselves. What is the part that only I can do? And what is the part that I can get some support on, whether it's from an AI tool or a human assistant? I think in the long run, we can be doing everything ourselves. I mean, I think I've done it. I was a one-woman band. I ran an entire TV show, 24 minutes each week for 2 seasons by myself. Every single piece of that show I did. And I was burned out. So yeah, in the lesson I learned over the years is, sometimes you have to know what, even though you're good at it, doesn't mean you should do it. So that's kind of how I feel about how people are able to use AI as a tool to support their creative work.
Yeah, absolutely. It frees you to actually do the writing, right? Which it can't do, right? So.
Well, keep writing. I'm excited to hear how it all goes, and I can't wait to read your next book. And I guess that's it for now. This is our new time, everyone. Thursdays at 9 o'clock Mountain Time. That would be 10, 11 o'clock on the East Coast, and 5 p.m. in Europe, Central Europe. And this is Friends and Authors Live. I'm Rosalinda Roman, and I'm here with AKVS Ash. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.